child of the 80s, there are a few things that my sister taught me to love. New Kids on the Block. Yes, side ponytails. This little thing right here. Don't you love her? It's a Cabbage Patch doll, for those of you born in the 2000s. Christmas of 1983, these dolls caused riots to break out in stores. Parents had lost their minds trying to find a Cabbage Patch doll for their girl. It was the must-have item. In 1984, sales reached $2 billion. And in 1985, the Cabbage Patch doll flew into space. Isn't that nice? And in December of 2013, my childhood dream came true when Jonathan, my husband, finally took me to Cleveland, Georgia, to Babyland General Hospital, the birthplace of Cabbage Patch dolls. Not to be confused with the Made in China sticker that's now attached to their bottoms. Picture this, a sprawling southern plantation home, begin you meander your way through the Museum of Dolls, being greeted by doll doctors and nurses, and the sweet smell of a Cabbage Patch baby's bottom. It was then that I looked over at my husband and saw this look on his face, like, what have I just stepped into? Because in the back of the room, if you've ever been there, there's a tree, okay? And sitting beneath the tree is the magic crystal tree. That, by the way, is pollinated by special magical bunny bees. And licensed patch nurses, every few minutes, you get to witness the birth, they take out this doll from these cabbages, right? His mind was blown. He didn't know what he was looking at. And it got me thinking about potential. Because listen here, if cabbage has the potential to A, grow on trees, and B, birth babies, then what can you do in your premier business? Potential, we all have it, it's innate. We have the potential to choose wisely or choose poorly. So since we all have it, the question remains, what are you going to do with it? Truth be told, you can't even fathom your full potential. Only your Creator can. Only God, the one who made you, knows all you are capable of being. Your parents, your spouse, your friends, your boss, they only get a glimpse of your potential. And last time I checked, your bottom has been parked in your seat, in this arena, in this city, today, for such a time as this. It is not by chance, but by design. Perhaps God is calling you, nudging you, and leading you right here today through Premier to do things you never thought possible. I'm going to give you 3 ways that I believe God can use your potential in Premier. Number 1, He can use your potential in Premier to meet financial needs and meet your family's needs. Did you know that God meets needs? He absolutely does. Did you know that? I don't know about you, but I'm a pretty needy person. All you have to do is ask my husband. And frankly, I've been that way since birth, so I'm going to share with you a little of our story. I'm going to take you back to August 8th of 1984, the day I was born to a 16-year-old unwed mother. There were several needs in that home, and because of that, I was removed from her care and into the state's custody when I was 2 months old. Soon after, I was placed in the care of my maternal grandparents, and they later adopted me, and they raised me in the wisdom and the knowledge of the Lord. God meets needs. Fast forward to 7th grade, and after a difficult year of middle school bullying, my parents sacrificed for me to attend a small private Christian school. I was so nervous on the bus that first day. I was standing right next to my best friend, and we pull up to the school, and I look over and I see this curly-headed boy sitting at the picnic table. And I looked at her and I said, "Who's that?" And she goes, "Oh, that's just Jonathan." And I looked at her right in and I said, "I'm going to marry that boy." I did. It took me 4 years to convince him that I wasn't completely crazy. Or maybe I just was trying to convince him that he could live with the crazy. But either way, God meets needs. Jonathan and I got married in college, and we paid $3,000 for a 700 square foot 1981 trailer. Single wide trailer. It was cheap, it wasn't totally falling apart, and it was ours. After finally graduating with our master's degrees, we were so excited to finally have 2 incomes. We were going to be rolling in the dough. We were going to save up to buy our first home. But 3 weeks after Jonathan's graduation, 2 little pink lines appeared on a stick that we weren't planning on. So our plans changed after Ella was born, and we went back down to 1 income because we wanted me to stay at home with our kids. 20 months later, Audrey came along. We finally figured out how all that happened. So here we are with 2 babies in a 700 square foot space, which wouldn't have been bad had we not been living in a questionable neighborhood with drug deals going on at our next door neighbor's house. So that's not the ideal place to raise kids. We needed a new home. Months after searching went by trying to find something that we could afford on 1 income, I would cry out for 8 long months, not knowing. I thought God had abandoned us, left us in this unsafe place, and I kept waiting on the house. But what lesson I had to learn is I could not wait on the thing, I had to wait on the Lord. Many lessons later, he dropped a pre-foreclosure into our laps and we were able to move within a month. God meets needs. However, a bigger home means a bigger mortgage. And we were $200 short on our monthly budget. I had done some adjunct teaching at the university, but quite frankly, I can't stand college kids, so I really didn't want to do that anymore. So one of my best friends from college, Cheryl Herman, had been doing this jewelry thing called Premier for about a year prior. And for 6 months, she kept saying, I really feel like God is laying you on my heart, and I really feel like Premier could really meet some needs in your life. And I kept saying, okay, tell me more about it later. So 6 months I blew her off and finally she went hush. So I blindly signed up into Premier. I just kind of kept thinking she was drinking the Kool-Aid. So I had never been to a show and I had never seen the jewelry in person, and quite frankly, I did not know how I was going to sell $400 worth of jewelry every month to make $200. That was an astronomical amount to me. My kid came in the mail and I distinctly remember I didn't even like over half the jewelry. But my training show came and it was a low show because the only people who came to my training show were my broke stay-at-home mom friends, and I made my mother pre-order $100 worth of jewelry, to which she told me she would never wear because she only wore the real stuff. But they all left my house that night, and after all was said and done, I made a little over $100. And I thought, do you know how long it took me teaching other people's kids all day to make $100? I can do this. This is doable. So they all left, and I looked at Jonathan and I said, honey, my goal is $1,000. And he looked at me like I had lost my mind. But guess what? I did it. I did 4 to 5 shows a month, and I didn't know what I was doing. I easily made about $1,000 extra for our family. I was elated. We were going to use our extra money to buy our dream car at that time, which was a minivan. Okay? I never got the minivan, P.S. But God meets needs. And he uses Premier to do that. At the end of our first year in Premier, I had held 51 jewelry shows, sponsored 4 people, and my commission check was a big whopping $312. I thought we were banking, okay? At minimum, listen to this, at minimum, I added over $12,000 to our income that year, and I had 314 days that I didn't even work. Jonathan and I came to Rowdy that year. Since having our girls, we had not been able to afford a vacation, nor had we been by ourselves. So this would be like our second honeymoon. So some of you may be sitting here today on your second honeymoon. Needless to say, there ain't much honeymooning going on, but what happened was eye-opening. We saw a company that walked their talk. We saw countless people making it happen. We saw potential. Inside, I had this crazy dream that maybe one day we could do this together. So we came home, and that August, I had 10 jewelry shows on my calendar. I didn't even really know how that happened, but I figured we could use the extra money for our stash, for our car. And then in September, the very next month, in 2010, the company Jonathan worked for went bankrupt and the doors closed 2 weeks later. So we went from his income paying all of our bills to no income at all, except for what? Premier. God had used August in Premier to pay all of our bills in September. We made the decision for me to temporarily beef up my jewelry shows while he quickly found another job. Except in 2010, in construction in Florida, that was pretty much non-existent. My temporary beef up in shows became more permanent month after month. My business exploded about 3 hours away from where we live, where our family lives. So I would pack my jewelry and the girls, and we would go and we would spend 1 to 2 weeks living with my parents and his parents, doing jewelry shows, because that's what was producing the income for us at that moment. I would come back home, and sometimes I would be tired, and sometimes I would be angry. Because I would come back home to a man that was broken. And if you know anything about myself and Jonathan, you know that he's like this, and I'm like this. So when he's not like this, I go crazy. And so I was not responding well, and he was broken and really trying to find what God was doing. What was he having him to do? So there were times I told him I just wasn't coming home, and I meant it. But then he told me I was, so I didn't. Then a little while later, somebody from our church sponsored us to go on our church's marriage retreat. And it was at that retreat that God grabbed us and said, hey, you have removed me from the center. You have removed me from the equation. And so he grabbed our hearts. And also it was a realization at that retreat that God was closing every single door. And the one who was leaving open that we were fighting was Premier. So we made the decision for him to stop looking for another job so we could focus on Premier for a little while and see how it went. At the end of our second year, I had done 104 jewelry shows. Remember, we needed to eat. Sponsored 10 new jewelers. Had 28 jewelers in our 10-10-10, and our commission check was $1,250 in the last month of our 2-year anniversary. Full-time jewelry shows equals full-time pay. God meets needs through Premier. So we had entered into what I call our years of 100. Because we needed to do things like eat and pay our bills, we needed a full-time salary with Premier. This meant maintaining 100 jewelry shows a year and sharing Premier with 100 people. Fundraisers became my best friends because I had to expand my business where I actually lived. So I did tons of fundraisers. I would offer fundraisers, sometimes giving half my profit, sometimes giving all my profit, and always offering at least a $25 cash bonus for any bookings that I received from those fundraisers. Now, we were poor. We didn't have the money to do that, but I knew the potential that rested in finding new circles of people. This expanded my contacts. I used homeschool groups, nonprofit groups at colleges, travel ball teams, Relay for Life, crisis pregnancy centers, church youth groups, you name it. Women love helping, and they love feeling like they're doing good, and fundraisers meet those needs. Did I have fundraisers that led to nowhere? Absolutely. Do I still have fundraisers that lead to nowhere? Absolutely. We all do, and I will continue to have that. But the more you do, the more it will work. 100 shows also meant I was in front of more women, intentionally asking and finding people who would meet with me so I could share the business with them. By the end of our second year of 100, which was the end of our third year in Premier, I had done 105 jewelry shows, sponsored 15 people, had 98 people in our 10-10-10, and our commission check was $6,505 that month. Almost 3 years later, those numbers have more than doubled. God meets our needs through Premier. What an incredible gift we have in Premier. Premier can grow and change with you in and out of the seasons of your life. But here's the deal. No needs will be met by just sitting pretty in your best friend necklace. Some of you here today are sitting here with the weight of an unknown tomorrow. It could be the bills that are piling up on your counter. It could be the weight of a potential job loss. It could be the strain of an unexpected pregnancy. It could be a simple car payment that needs to be made. What are you going to do with the potential of Premier to meet your financial needs? God feeds the birds, but he doesn't drop the worms in their nest. Number 2, you have potential for ministry in Premier. You know, having financial needs met is huge and it's necessary. But the beauty of Premier and the beauty of what Andy and Joan set out to do through Premier goes far beyond finances. How do we take this business from just another direct sales company, just a way to make a great living, to being a part of something that is life-changing and God-honoring? We view Premier as a ministry. Did you know that your Premier business may be the only church that a jeweler, a hostess, or a customer sees? It could be you shutting your mouth and listening to somebody. It could be you giving somebody that hug they need. It could be you sending a card or giving a meal. You have many times, you may even have times when a show or a jeweler doesn't necessarily produce. You may ever have that? Yeah. God may not have that person in your business in order for you to make a bunch of money. But for you to be the one that gives the love and the friendship and the direction towards Jesus that she desperately needs. Leaders need to have a heart for ministry, and leaders see the potential that God has set before them. And I believe there are 5 areas in which you can effectively minister to women at your jewelry shows and in your downline so easily through Premier. They are, the first one is emotionally. How many times have you seen a woman who thinks they can't do what you're doing get up and do their own jewelry show and suddenly feel like she can conquer the world? You can minister emotionally to women at your shows when they are having a hard day and maybe you offer a hug or you pray for them. You can also minister relationally. Women long to feel like they are special, that they are important, and that they belong. They seek relation. How many friends have you made through Premier? You can give that blessing to others. You can also minister physically. You know, I was at a jewelry show one time and the lady came and I was trying to get her to book a show like I do with every lady, and she would not book a show. She was, but you just don't even understand, I had the best time. And I said, girl, why don't you just have some girlfriends over to your house? And she said, well, honestly, this is the first time I've been out of my house in 8 months. I can't do anything at my home. My husband was in a terrible motorcycle accident, and he's laying in a hospital bed in our house. But tonight has totally made my week. And she had a total countenance change. Physically, she changed. I've also changed a little physically, but we won't go there. You can also minister financially, whether small or big. You don't know what the difference maker could be in somebody's life. Also, financially, Premier can provide you freedom financially, so you can then minister in so many other ways that God can use you. You can also, this is the most important, is minister spiritually. You know, just like you heard on the video, lives are saved here at Rally. Lives are changed eternally. People come back to the Lord. We had a baptism in the hotel pool last year at Rally. And she's sitting over there today. You don't know what kind of difference you can make just being in somebody's life. But you can't do that unless you get out and do jewelry shows and sponsor people. Okay, you have so much potential for ministry and Premier. What are you going to do with it? Are you willing to risk your time and energy? Number 3, you have the potential to lead the next generation. And that generation begins today. Premier needs leaders, and that is you, to continue to strengthen the philosophy, the purpose, and the plan. It means we are not looking for the next best company or the next easy way to do it. Last time I checked, Jesus didn't do ministry through Facebook. He walked beside others. He was in their homes. This is exactly what makes Premier work for the long haul. Walking beside others through sponsoring and building relationships in homes through your jewelry shows. There are no shortcuts to this. Can you enhance your business through Facebook? Absolutely. But don't expect to sustain it that way. What will happen if we lose sight of our purpose? Either our doors will close or we will be just another direct sales company that's all about the money and material possessions. So, what can happen when we realize the potential that He has given us through Premier? You won't know unless you step into it. You use such a small fraction of your brain. You don't need more intelligence. You need to use the intelligence God has given you. Likewise, you only use a small fraction of your potential in Premier. You need to use the potential of Premier that God has placed you in. Use what you already have. John 8:31-32 says, "You are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." The truth is that God has placed you here. The truth is that lives and families are at stake. The truth is no one person can carry this business